Welcome. At 6 o'clock, it's time for our regular scheduled board meeting. Tonight, I've asked Commissioner Richardson to open us with the invocation and the pledge. If you stand.
Let's pray. Our gracious Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity to come together and just talk about county business. Lord, we thank you for each person who's come out. We thank you for the interest. We thank you, Lord, for the community input. We ask your blessings upon this board as we make decisions. Lord, give us wisdom and direction that we may honor and glorify you in our decisions. Lord, that we might do the right thing for our community. We do pray for our first responders and our military, Lord, that you keep them safe. And Lord, just bless them. And Lord, for all these things, we are just thankful and we're grateful for what you do in our lives and for your blessings. And we pray these things in Christ's name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the March 19, 2019 MSBU workshop and the March 19, 2019 regular scheduled board meeting. Are there any changes or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a correction.
Yes, sir.
On general business and 20th item on the agenda, stated that a family member of the property had requested the board to sell the property back to him once it had been cleaned up, and that was not the information that I provided. That they just simply requested the opportunity to purchase the property for the tax deed sale, and they themselves would clean it up.
All right. Anything else? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve with the correction?
Motion approved. Second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming, second by Commissioner Hale. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, we're going to jump around on the agenda for a second. We're going to drop down to item 17, proclamations and presentations, adoption of a resolution declaring April 8th, 2019 as National Lineman Appreciation Day. Mr. John Little presenting.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mr. Harris, good to see y'all again. Every year you guys honor us with this, and it's been another active year, another hurricane. A lot of work making the grid more reliable around here, so we hope you've all noticed that. Again, thank you. I'll go ahead and read the resolution. Okay. Starting with all the whereases. Whereas electric line workers approach their job with a sense of service and responsibility to their community. And whereas these individuals spend every day working on power lines with thousands of volts of electricity. And whereas line workers are often asked to work in hazardous conditions away from their families so that they can build and maintain the systems that bring electric power to people across the country. And whereas their job takes courage and is essential to keeping our nation safe and working. And whereas the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association has established that the second Monday of April each year should serve as National Line Worker Appreciation Day, and whereas it would be an appropriate time for Suwannee County to also recognize the diligence of line workers in our county, now therefore be it resolved by the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners that we are grateful to and acknowledge the efforts made by line workers throughout the county to keep the power on and protect the safety of the public. We encourage all Suwannee County residents to observe Monday, April 8th as National Line Worker Appreciation Day.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution declaring April 8th as National Lineman Appreciation Day?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the resolution.
Got a motion by Commissioner Richardson.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Fleming. Any discussion?
Just simply to say, Mr. Chairman, again, every year I say this, you guys just do jam-up job all across the country. Come down here to help us, go there to help them, and I do appreciate all your linemen and what they do. They're as important to us as our first responders are to us.
Thank you, sir.
I'll echo that. Once a year, we adopt a resolution, but anytime power goes out, we're thankful that how fast y'all get to it and get it turned back on. I know y'all have had several active years with storms and ice storms, hurricanes, and it's kind of like, you know, nobody realizes what you do until something like that happens and everybody's screaming for the power to be turned on. So we do appreciate it more than once a year as we recognize April 8th as National Lineman Day. We thank y'all.
Absolutely. And also, I do want to recognize, I see what you guys are doing to prevent some of these power outages. I see the work you guys are putting into that, so I want to recognize that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got to have a vote.
Yeah, I'm about to vote. Y'all give me a second. All right, hearing no further discussion, I have a motion by Commissioner Richardson, a second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor to adopt, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Y'all wanted a picture?
Yes, sir, that'd be great. I brought some guys with me.
We'll go ahead and do that now. All right, go back to the consent agenda. We have items 2 through 15. Any items wishing to be pulled for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, just for some clarification, number 3, number 12, and 14, just for some clarification.
Okay. So you said 3, 12, and 14?
Yes, sir.
I'm also going to pull 13 and 15. Anything else? Hearing none, need a motion to approve 2, 4 through 11.
Motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner, that was Mr. Hill, right?
Second.
Yes, sir.
Got a second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, item 3.
Item 3 and 14, I guess it coincide with each other. I just want to know the difference. Where it was asking about, can you hear me now? Okay. Just a little better. Item 3, the approval of supplemental agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation for the road construction on 122nd Street, and then award bid to authorize execution. For the contract, I was just wondering, those two coincide with each other.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted some clarification on that.
Well, I'm glad you pulled at least number 14, because I was going to ask about making a comment on that one anyway. That's a particular project. Padlock Road, 122nd, is a road where when the bids came in, there was insufficient funding in the original allocation by DOT. So, as I typically do, I went over and bowed low and burned incense and begged for some more money. And it took quite a while. Mr. Pittman helped facilitate a lot of that conversation and reached out to our partners with DOT and tried to find some more money.
Okay.
They finally did, but I also wanted to emphasize that I had a conversation with the contractor. Even though they were low bid, I told them we didn't have enough money to build this project. And I asked them to go back and sharpen their pencil, and they did. They came back, and I think it's $76,000, is that right? About $76,000 that they cut off of their low bid. So then DOT came up with a little more money. One thing that I wanted to tell you, though, is that while it says funded by DOT, we are still short the funding for CEI on that project. Now, I've had a conversation with the chairman about coming back and us potentially hiring our own CEI to start handling our inspections. And I need to have that conversation with you, but I'm involved in some conversations with some people that are qualified to handle that. So I plan to bring that back. So for now, the construction piece of it will be funded by DOT, including that reduction by the contractor, and I'll have to come back to you soon regarding the CEI on that project.
Okay. And on number 12, award the bid to Cross Environment Services. They were the one that won the bid. I didn't get a price. I didn't see the price. The others.
Oh, the others' prices?
Yes, sir.
Add 100,000 to it, and that's about
I
right.
think the closest one may have been 16,000, maybe?
18. Okay.
18?
18,000.
Okay.
That was the closest one, and after that, they really jumped up considerably higher.
Yeah.
Okay, could I just get a copy
Yes, sir.
sometime for, okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, one question
Yes, sir.
about the CEI comment. I
Mr.
know I've
Chairman.
had this conversation a little bit with Chris Doolin in Tallahassee this past week. But didn't the state approve a program where we had a single, we only needed a single engineer could do the same for small fiscally restrained counties, could do the inspection services, the same engineer who did the other work?
It's possible to have the design. Not too many years ago, we could have the design engineer handle the CEI as well, and then they
Really
changed
changed.
that for some reason, and it was terribly cumbersome, and in my opinion, more expensive to hire a separate CEI. But I think after some of the experiences that we've had in recent years with inspections, that it might behoove us to have an inspector that is actually employed by the county.
Okay.
So, like I said, I've had this conversation with the chairman, and we discussed this a couple of years ago, but I think now might be the right time, particularly since we really understand that DOT doesn't have enough money to pay for all these projects. So in light of that, if we can save some money by hiring our own inspector, I think it benefits us in the long run, because what money we do have, we put into asphalt then instead of on the inspection side.
Thank you. I know it was a conversation they were having, they're going to have with DOT when they had it this week, I was telling you about. So.
Right.
All right. Item 3, approval of supplemental agreement with Florida Department of Transportation for additional CPI funds, CIGP funds, in the amount of $98,000 for new road construction of 122nd. Any further discussion on that project? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
I don't think we had a motion second.
Well, we didn't.
No, we didn't have a
I'm getting ahead of y'all again, ain't I? Do I have a motion to approve?
motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Fleming,
Second.
second by Mr. Stapleton. Try that vote again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. The other one you pulled was what? 12?
12.
12.
12 was award bid and authorization to execution of contract for Cross Environmental Services for the demolition of the Douglas Center. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. Any further discussion? Hear none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And then 14, award bid and authorization of execution of contract for Kurtz Construction for new road construction of 122nd Street and US 129 to County Road 49. I know, but we didn't discuss it yet, so I was just getting these ones that we discussed out of the way. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Stapleton. Do I have a second? Who was that? I'm sorry.
I started, I thought somebody else seconded it, but
Yeah, a second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, item 13 is award request for proposals and authorization of execution of contract with Madden Median for marketing services for the Suwannee County TDC. I pulled this just simply because the TDC recommendation was different than what I wanted to do, and I voted in opposition to it. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. We had 3 RFPs for the media service. I thought all 3 of them were qualified. I respect the TDC's decision and the way they come about it, but 2 of the companies were not local and 1 was local, and I had the preference to go with the local company, and I just wanted to make the board aware of that before we authorize it. So if y'all have any discussion or questions. Got the TDC and Economic Director standing up here, ready to throw daggers at me. If not, I mean,
I'll say this, Mr. Chairman, I think I spoke to Carissa and Jimmy about this. I think my biggest concern when I was looking at it, and I discussed this with you guys, was our accessibility to this website. And, you know, I'm not going into beating the past up, but we had some issues, I think, with our prior provider for that. But you guys seem to think that that's a non-issue, so that was more of my issue, making sure we had more of a say in how our website is run. But by saying that, something I didn't cover in conversation with you earlier, how hard or what hoops are there to jump through if you did want to change something on that website or update that website or remove something from that website?
We do have access right now, and we have had access. We wrote the RFP in such a way that we would retain access at all times, and we would retain administrative control over the website. Whatever company we get in the future will also be able to make changes on the website, but they would not be able to lock us out at any point.
They would notify you guys before they would do it, any changes or?
Right. Anything that they want to do would have to be approved first,
Okay.
and we would always have access.
And we would obviously have to enter into a contract with whichever company, so these things will be spelled out.
Right.
well, that was the question I had. I know it was a request, it was an RFP that we went out for, and it had a dollar amount not to exceed, but then I think there was some language in there that said 20,000 for advertising, 10,000 for administrative, but they could move that around if they needed to. Are we going to be able to negotiate with whatever company it is and tie them down to what they're going to provide us? Or we're not approving, we're just selecting their approval tonight to go into negotiations, correct?
Right, for the company.
When the questions were asked, whenever we went out for bids on the project, there were some questions asked about the dollar figures, and did the 10,000 and the 20,000 have to stay congruent to those specific categories? So we responded back that if they felt like they could do administratively a little less and apply a little bit more to one side or area, they could. Now, the proposals they submitted were in accordance to how they thought they could operate within that. So however they submitted their proposal, I'm assuming is how they're planning on delivering the product to us. I don't know that they're going to want to go back now and change up, divide those numbers up differently than what they've provided. I think what they did within the proposals is the different companies give us a couple of different options of what they could do within the dollar amount, as we've seen with the company that we recommend.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I guess just to Carissa, I read a part of it in there where it was saying from April, I think, to September, that would be would that be considered half of a year?
Right, that would just get us through the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah, just so that there's no confusion, if the budget's a $30,000 budget, because where we're at in the year, the RFP was for 6 months. So next year, it won't be a $60,000 budget, it'll still be a $30,000 budget, it's just going to have to cover a 12-month period.
Right, and that, obviously, as the chairman's saying, unless the TDC board
Unless
decided to
unless
change
they
that.
allocate more funding, but,
Right, they could go more, or even less.
Right.
But right now, that was all that was allocated for the year. And we've been without someone now for 6 months. And so, Chris's hands are a little bit tied as to what we can be doing out promoting Suwannee County. So for us, it's very important we kind of move on this thing and get a contract in place so we can do the business of tourism in Suwannee County.
yeah, I just didn't want, we were very clear to the vendors that it did not double next year, that it was.
Yes, they were specifically told this, right, and that amount could vary each year.
Could vary each-
This will carry us through this fiscal year, and then we will have a clause of, as long as the county attorney works with us on that so that they have the option for next year, if we can work with them next year, and with the funding that we have available.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I wonder if I could defer a question until after the vote, but just keep them up here just for a second for clarification, because I think it involves more than just the TDC. I think it involves the way we do things as well. And I'm just curious what you guys do on these RFPs. Would I be able to do that
I mean,
after the vote, just before they sit down?
I guess, but
I'll stay standing.
I just want, it's a quick question. It's a quick question.
I mean, I don't, you can ask it now if you want.
I just don't want to make it seem like that they're doing something
Mr. Chairman.
differently than we are.
No, I mean, I sat through this process, and Mr. Pavat's the attorney for the TDC, and we followed the same procedure for RFP that we would through this, so, yes, sir.
I'd just like to say I got all the faith in the world in our new economic development director and his staff, and I'd like to move forward with this, and let's vote on it.
So was that a motion that was a motion?
Yes, sir.
I got a motion to approve by Commissioner Stapleton.
Second.
Do I have a second? I have a second by
Second.
Commissioner Fleming. All right, any further discussion?
Well, just since you're going to ask this question anyway, I might as well just go ahead and ask it. It sounds like I'm going to need to do it there. I am curious, when you go through the scoring process for these RFPs, do you redact any of the information that, as far as the names of the company, the addresses where they're located before you score them, or do you just do them just basically the way we scored our economic development director applications, with all the information right there in the front?
Well, and yes, that's kind of how we did it. It's a little bit difficult when these come in. If you tried to pull all the information out of, one of these proposals, you guys have them in front of, or well, we sent them all out, but because the way the proposals are put together and everything that's in it, I mean, it'd be very difficult to try to pull everything out. That didn't, half of the proposal was talking about that particular company, the people that work for that company. A big piece for us in this is, one of these companies is 100% tourism, and it's what they do, and they've got tons of employees in one station right here in Florida, and that works with Visit Florida. So, but to answer your question, yeah, it would be very difficult to try to.
I realize that it's a discussion for a later date. Just think that just to avoid the appearance of impropriety, that maybe we ought to consider that in the future about getting information for as far as where a company or a person is located, and just score these people based on these companies based upon their merits, not based upon their locations. And let that, and I know that that's not part of your criteria, but I'm just saying that to avoid the appearance, maybe we ought to talk about that in the future.
Well, yeah, in this case, it would be.
Difficult, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could dissect these proposals and not know who you're talking about. I just,
And you work towards the rules.
just don't know.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, got a motion to approve by Commissioner Stapleton, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, sir. All right, moving on to item 15, renewal of work time at Universal Service Agreement for monitoring the Affordable Care Act. More commonly, never mind. Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I asked to pull this one just briefly. I reviewed it with Mr. Williams, and part of the contract, this was initially done in 2015, and we made a modification to the contract in 2015, and the renewal contract did not contain that same modification. So I would like for you to go ahead and approve it. It's just, I mean, they agreed to it last time, and obviously it just didn't get put in there, this time around. So I would like for you to go ahead and approve the agreement, but with the modifications that I had proposed before and would propose again with regard to indemnity and venue provisions.
Y'all have any questions for Mr. Pratt? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So move with the provisions that Mr. Ravat gave.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Richardson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to time specific. At 6:15 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold a public hearing to consider the enactment of an ordinance and adoption of an enabling resolution to provide designation of certain streets, roads, highways, and bridges within the county as a truck route, providing for definitions, providing for prohibition of truck traffic, providing the exemptions, providing for inclusion in code, providing for penalty, providing for serviceability, and providing for effective date. Mr. Pravat?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Harris and I worked together, listening to what y'all have been talking about over, all the time about how we go about controlling truck traffic. And the way you have to initially start it is to have this type of enabling ordinance, period. Now, this particular, the purpose for this particular one at this time is that DOT has requested that we have this type of ordinance so that we can go ahead and place signs as we get directed toward the perimeter road. So what you have here before you is just that basic enabling ordinance to be able to designate certain highways and then control speeds, fines, and to give law enforcement an opportunity to be able to enforce it. So the next part that you will see in the packet is the resolution that we now would address at DOT's request with regard to perimeter road. But let's first get this, just the basic underlying ordinance passed.
All right. So we'll open the public hearing. At this time, I will swear anyone in that may want to testify. If you think you'll want to testify, I need you to stand up and swear in.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll go ahead and be sworn in because I plan probably to comment.
All right.
All right? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give before the board to be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I got a little ahead of myself. I guess you already had the staff presentation. Do you need to do it again since I opened?
No,
the
sir.
hearing
I
backwards?
was just making general comments on it.
Y'all have any questions for Mr. Pravat on the proposed ordinance?
I do.
Yes, sir.
We've talked about this in the past, Mr. Ravat, about some of the problems with our trucks in different neighborhoods and stuff like that. Would this ordinance allow us to control truck traffic such as, we're not talking about farm equipment, we're talking about truck traffic, hauling, let's just say potatoes through a neighborhood?
No, sir. Now, when you talk about hauling potatoes, you're getting back to your agricultural exemption for all of that. However, there are other circumstances that you've called me about over the last 2 years that this is the basic ordinance that you need to have in place before you can then address those situations of specific roads, specific routes that they have to take for trucks with the speeds and all of that type of stuff. So this one ought to be right down your alley here.
I don't like enacting ordinances, a lot of ordinances, and adding more and more problems to our folks, but honestly, we've got a safety issue out there. We know it. We've got a cost issue with these roads being torn up, and I think that it's responsible for us to make sure that we do what we have to do.
But again, Commissioner Richardson, this is just the basic underlying.
Yes, sir.
We have to come back at a different time to be able to address those situations that we have addressed or we've talked about in the past.
I'll take anything I can get.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could make a brief comment.
Yes, sir.
I just want to elaborate a little bit on what the county attorney has said. The ordinance is very general in nature, and it doesn't have any teeth. Until you implement an enabling resolution, We have a resolution here that we want the board to consider. It's a part of this agenda item. So it will speak to the issue of identifying the truck bypass as such, so that we can then ask DOT to place those signs, identifying it as the truck bypass. Similarly, if a commissioner wants to bring up another issue in the future, it would need to come back in the form of a resolution. We wouldn't have to bring back another ordinance. Only the resolution to address that particular component that you would like to consider under your very general ordinance.
Is there any way to adopt this resolution where it is just speaking to the truck bypass and not an overall general, or not the resolution, the ordinance?
No, sir, not really. You have to have unless you want to include only that in it, and we'd have to change the ordinance language in it to say, instead of having the ability to come back to the board for a resolution and a designation, you would only designate this route, and we'd have to change the ordinance language to do that. But what you effectively have here is the broad underlying policy that allows you to do it. It wouldn't become designated, or there wouldn't be any changes made unless it came back before the board and a whole new resolution enacted about that specific circumstance.
Specific road, specific, I get that, but I mean, it's kind of like getting your foot in the door. I've been opposed to the no-through trucks and from the beginning, and it's because I just don't believe there's a way to enforce it. Even going through this and having penalties and fines, we're going to have a hard time enforcing it throughout the county. I agree with the truck route part of it. I just don't want to expand on it past that, and I don't want to really open that door with this resolution or ordinance to allow us to, because I think a lot of the complaints and a lot of the phone calls that we get that our people are arguing about it has nothing, we won't even be able to manage or control it anyway because it's exempt.
You mentioned one thing, which is through traffic, which is totally different, which is not part of this. Okay?
Okay.
All right, this is the designation for a truck route, to be able to control that truck traffic going through. A through street and through designation falls under a different provision.
So through this ordinance, would the board be able to come back then and adopt a resolution saying no truck traffic on this road?
You're going to have to designate, yes, sir, no truck traffic on this road.
But then when you say no truck traffic, it's only limited to a certain amount of truck traffic because any agricultural timber products, they're exempt from.
They're exempt from it anyway.
And that's the ones that people fuss about.
I understand.
And very rarely do you get a Walmart truck cutting through the neighborhoods. I mean, it's, I know some of y'all do because they turn around on your road because GPS takes them to the wrong road. I'm not talking about that.
Well, the discussions that we've had in the past, have dealt with agricultural commodities, or whether it's silage during a certain time of year, whether it's a logging truck when it's in somebody's neighborhood, doing all of that. That is not what we're talking about with this, is being able to prohibit that type of activity. Okay?
I know, but I can hear it now. There's a sign at the end of my road that says no trucks, but every day they get up and run a daggone watermelon truck down my road, and they shouldn't be doing that. Y'all got a sign that says don't do it.
Well, they're saying that without this ordinance.
I understand that. But they're going to say there's a sign there, why don't you get somebody out here to stop them? Because
I'll leave that
we
up.
understand the rule, but the average person just sees the sign up that says no trucks.
Just blame it on the sheriff's department.
I agree.
I don't want to do it.
Mr. Chairman, would
Yes,
this,
sir.
You've got broad shoulders, right?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
would this also include like the weight limit, some legal limits, like some limits
Yes,
per
sir.
axle?
Well, what it does is
Restrictions.
define what a truck is. You start with that. You don't change the state statute because you can't, of what the definition can be. The state statute actually goes lower, down to 8,000 pounds, and I've proposed that we set it at 15,000 pounds as to what would be these trucks that have to go on these particular things. It gives you, for local delivery types of trucks and things like that, that it'd be easier for them to be in compliance. So we haven't changed the designation, of what the maximum weight limit is.
We're talking about in the rural areas.
Yes, sir. Everything is outside the city of Live Oak except for our maintained roads.
What about the width when it comes to and I don't want to get into a long discussion because it bring me into my job too, the width of that road. If we're going by this, it's going to include the width of that road also sometimes.
That's why you just have the basic thing. Then you come back and you say, when you're addressing a specific problem, like perimeter road. So we have a resolution that just says, we're designating that as a truck route. Now, if you're getting concerned about a particular road, you look at what we have here, that under these particular rules then, a truck that weighed more than 15,000 pounds or had triaxles or a tractor trailer, type of thing would be considered a truck. And they wouldn't be coming through on these accesses through town, but they would be designated to use that route as best they could. Now, if you want to go further and limit it, you do that by that separate resolution that comes back and says on, I don't know, what's the nearest road? 180th, okay, 180th Road. That trucks of this capacity with a lane that is this narrow, you can add that to it in your enabling resolution if you don't want 100,000-pound trucks going over that bridge on the 180th that we just redid. You go back and you address each one of the roads individually to be able to do that.
Are those,
All we're doing here is defining what a truck is, and then if there is a truck and they violate it by whatever we designate as whatever a truck route is, this ordinance doesn't say any street right now is a truck route, designated truck route. But that's when the resolution comes in. This is just the broad underlayment to be able to allow you to address those circumstances one at a time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
but if we did pass that resolution for, say, 180th, it would still exclude the farmers, the pulpwood trucks, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
That are
Agricultural
use are all
Agricultural
exempt.
use, temporary agricultural use is exempt.
I'm not sure that your bridge postings are going to exclude them, though.
No.
That's
It's
different.
weight.
That's a DOT issue. Let me just say this, though. If the board considered any other issue associated with some type of limitation or regulation of any truck traffic, it would have to come back in a public meeting just like this so that the public could participate in the conversation. And it would come back in the form of a resolution. Now, today's resolution, which is a part of this agenda item, if the ordinance is adopted, only speaks to US 129, US 90, Perimeter Road, 72nd Trace, and County Road 795, which is also Houston Avenue. And when we get to the resolution, I'm going to ask that we make a minor amendment to the resolution, just add a / after 795 and add Houston Avenue because that's what it's identified as in the city limits. And that's it, no other roads.
I don't have a problem with any of that, if that's where if that's where the ordinance stopped as well. But that ordinance is the doorway for the next resolution for this road and this road and this road, and frankly, I just think they're unenforceable. Somebody complains about a semi, by the time somebody's there to enforce it, semi's gone.
Or if it's a systemic problem and law enforcement decides to sit out there and write some warnings or something else, they have the ability to do it because it's been passed. Now, in the alternative, if you want to do everything by ordinance, the board approves an ordinance, and then when the board decides to do something different, you come back with a lot of ordinances. So it's either going to be addressed as ordinances or it's going to be addressed as resolution.
For this particular issue, I like it to address just that road, that one route, but that's my wishes. If the board's wish is different, I mean, so be it.
Well, if the board approved both of them tonight, the only thing that would be different tomorrow is that we would have the truck bypass recognized formally, and it would be limited to these roads that are included in the resolution.
Any further questions for staff? If not, this time we'll open the floor to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, if they'll make their way to the podium. If you weren't sworn in at this time, you'll have to be sworn in when you come up to speak.
Go ahead, Mr. Attorney, swear at me.
Okay, if both of y'all go ahead and raise your right hand. Do each of you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give before the board this evening will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Bo Hancock, 6135 Wiggins Road, Suwannee County. I'm just confused, because y'all are talking about a resolution, you're talking about an ordinance, you're talking about the weight limits, et cetera. All we have for the public, all in the agenda packet is 2 sheets, a resolution. There's nothing in there about weight limits, definition of a truck, nothing. I don't know what happened, but we don't have it.
Well, in the agenda packet that I received,
The ordinance is in the agenda packet that was emailed
The ordinance is in
out.
here, and so is the resolution. The ordinance is approximately 8 pages long, with the
Well, I missed
definition
it,
section.
then. I apologize.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Hancock, I believe what you have is the additional resolution that was sent out, and it was only sent out, in fact, we emailed this out as well, didn't we, later? The only difference between this resolution and the one that was in your packet that you received by email, which included the ordinance as well, was that we added County Road 795.
Okay.
So we
I was
just
just
brought
concerned
copies.
because y'all were talking about 2 different things here, or more than what I was aware of.
Yeah, well, they're both in your packet that you were emailed. The only thing that you'll find in that original version of the resolution was that it didn't include County Road 795.
Man, how much does a loaded dump truck weigh? A loaded dump truck is 70,000 pounds, 30 tons.
Depends on who loads it, but that should be pretty close.
Sometimes it's lower than that.
Better watch what you do, because you ain't gonna be able to run your dump trucks on the roads, on some roads. Thank you.
Franklin White, 7323 180th Street, McAlpin. I'm with Ricky on this. I think you're just opening the door, maybe in an election year or some other time, when people start raising sand about trucks, to just start shutting off roads to a lot of trucks. And as a truck owner, just like you was talking about 180th Street. Well, I got a business on one side of 180th Street, one on the other side of that bridge. I realize it's agricultural exempt, but I have a trucking company under one name and my nursery's under another name. So am I exempt or am I not? if you see where I'm coming from. That's my question to you.
I don't have an answer for you.
Whether you would be exempt
If
as
I'm-
an agricultural?
Well, yes, sir, because I own the nursery. My trucking company's separate from the nursery.
Yes, sir.
If I'm loading my nursery
Commercial
product,
carrier, if you're trucking business, you
As a
have a
commercial
commercial
carrier.
carrier, they have different responsibilities. And as a commercial carrier, still loading agricultural products, you still would be exempt.
okay.
Okay.
But this, so far, what you've had here tonight is just for the truck route around Live Oak.
Yes, sir. We were approached, and I say we, the county commission, everybody, we built the road, everybody's wanting everybody to use that as a bypass road. Because the city has recognized that there has been a problem with truck traffic coming, the big trucks coming downtown, turning, originally back in 2007, that's what the enabling resolution that we had between the county and the city was, to do something to stop that. That's what Perimeter Road was designed to do. Now, we've got the road, and everybody locally knows that, okay, it's now known as the bypass road, Perimeter Road. And what DOT wanted to do was us to put signage on it. And for us to have signage on DOT's US 129 or on US 90, we, the county and the city, have to have a resolution or some type of enabling local legislation, which is an ordinance, and then the resolution following it, for them to be able to place a sign up there that says truck route. And so that's how this got started. The city and the county wanted to stop that traffic, but we've stopped at the underlying legislation to designate it as a truck route, and then simply a resolution that designates this particular section of road as a truck route. Then DOT will place signage along US 90 and US 129, and then if the trucks do not follow the particular ordinance and continue to go downtown and turn, it allows the sheriff and the city of Live Oak to have an enforcement mechanism to keep them from doing that. And that's what the limitations are at this point, period.
Can I make a comment briefly?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pittman and I actually went and met with DOT representatives and had this conversation. Another problem that we have is that, like the Walmart problem with GPS, the GPS sends Walmart trucks off into the middle of these rural neighborhoods with unpaved roads for some reason. The GPS believes that Walmart is out there on a dead-end road. We have a similar problem with some GPS units that if a large truck is headed south on 795, as they're coming south toward town, instead of the GPS directing them to turn east on 72nd Trace if they want to get on I-10, it doesn't direct them to turn on 72nd Trace and go over to 129 and then north to I-10. It ends up bringing them all the way down to 90. Takes them right to the intersection of 90 and 129 to then make a turn north where it's almost impossible. So if the signs were placed out, that's what started this more recently, was I had conversations, I don't know, a couple months ago, we started trying to communicate and get these signs put up because only the DOT can put their signs up. I thought if we could get them put up on 795, that'd be great. Well, they wouldn't do it until we went and had a conversation with them. We pulled up these roads, and they agree that it needs to be done, but they have to have something from the county that says, we have identified this as a truck route, a truck bypass. And that's all we're trying to accomplish here.
Well, I get that, and that's a pretty good idea, because it's hard to get a truck.
The locals know about these roads, and those aren't the trucks that we're trying to inform that there's a truck route there. It's the guys that don't live here that create all the problems, because there aren't too many locals that want to try to make that turn down there with a tractor trailer.
Well, I agree with that. I just didn't want it to turn into, let's just start taking roads off everywhere you go.
That's a policing mechanism. The public has to police the county commission, just make sure that they don't do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pravat, this, when I read through this this ordinance, it seems to cover everything necessary for us to be able to put a truck route, these truck routes in. Is that correct?
I hope it does. That's why I drew it this way.
All right. So is it simply the fact that everything necessary to do these truck routes also includes opportunity for a future board to vote to restrict traffic on another road under similar circumstances?
I think I would agree with that.
Okay. I think we're, and maybe I'm wrong, but Mr. Chairman, your heartburn is that this could lead to something worse down the road for our communities and regulation and stuff. But can you not take anything out of this ordinance to do the same thing that we're doing tonight, and that is for the truck routes? Is there anything that can be taken out?
Or added.
Or added, what do you mean added?
I said if he,
Well,
An exemption?
It's about as generic as you can get, because it doesn't identify any roads. That's why the resolution is required.
And that's what I'm getting at this point. I just think that you can't do anything with it. We can't do the truck routes without it.
my question was just in the first sentence, whereas certain roads, streets, highways, bridges located within the county. Why can't that verbiage be replaced with the designated eastern bypass known as perimeter road and that ordinance be specific to the truck route?
I can draft it in that fashion, where it would be an ordinance addressing only that particular designated area as a truck route, and with the same enforcement provisions, that if you're going somewhere and you're going to go through town, you don't take the truck route, you could do that. But it doesn't address, the bigger picture of everything, that if anything changes, you got to go back and make changes by ordinance rather than simply by, resolution.
I get that, but if an ordinance requires public hearing, notification to the public that you're fixing to enact whatever upon them, resolution doesn't. Every time a commissioner gets a phone call fussing about something, a knee-jerk reaction to slap a resolution on the agenda restricting truck traffic is a lot easier to push through than it is to push through an ordinance, in my opinion. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. You know what opinions are.
Mr. Chairman, and I'll agree but disagree a bit. I would say this, at least by having the option to have the public know what we're doing would be a better fit, I believe. So instead of just having a resolution, having an ordinance for each one of those and having a public hearing, I think would be the way I would like to see it. Because I do run these problems myself. Some of these places we're talking about are in my district. Some of these roads that go through, you got truck drivers that live on those roads. I mean, I understand it, but I think right now, the biggest thing we need to address is our joint resolution with the city for the bypass. And 795, which is including, I believe, Houston.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this may or may not help. Any future commission can do anything they want to do, regardless of what this commission wants to do.
I understand.
I mean, you do it by ordinance, you do it by resolution.
I know, but
Another board can bring it back and do it the way they want to, but, and if you want to pull this thing and bring it back as an ordinance, we can bring it back as just an ordinance and no resolution. Question is, how do you get there from here? Either way. Either way will get us there, and any future board can do whatever they want to do.
Well, I get that any board can do what they want to do, but I don't want to make my decisions based on what a future board may do. I'd have to make it on the way I feel about it, and this is the way I feel about it. Future board will have that luxury to feel the way they feel about it, so that's just where I have to stand with that. But if we change that first sentence, that first whereas, can we change it tonight, or do we have to re-advertise?
You're going to have to re-advertise part of the ordinance because you're going to be placing in an additional restriction naming the road. You're going to have to take out, if you look at the.
Can you lean forward into the microphone?
Oh,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Pravat?
I apologize. I don't think by making the amendment to the first whereas clause up here is going to cover what you're wanting to do. You're
I
going
got
to
you.
add the routing description back probably around page 3, and then
You've got other sections in there where
They're
you're,
gonna have
where
to
you're
be
speaking to the
eliminated.
resolution. All of that language would have to be pulled out as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just simply say, with you, what you stated about difference between a resolution and an ordinance, I wholeheartedly agree with. Sort of like raising taxes, we shouldn't be able to do it really quickly. I want to make sure that what we do appropriately, and we have everything that we need, so we don't have a judge throw it out at some point in the future because we didn't do it right. So,
Well, it's done right.
I know, as it is now, I'm talking about changing it and bringing it back.
But if the board wants to do it by ordinance, if you'll just give us direction, we can bring just an ordinance back.
That's what I want.
Doesn't matter to me.
So,
I don't have a passion one way or the other, and I doubt that Mr. Pravat does either. Y'all just give us some direction. All we're trying to do is get some signs up.
that's what I want. I want the signs up. I don't want anything beyond that.
But I wholeheartedly agree with that first whereas. There are certain roads in this county that are not suited for that kind of traffic. You know that.
Mr. Chairman, I offer motion that we bring it back as an ordinance.
Got a motion, just
Second.
bring it back as an ordinance by Commissioner Fleming, second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further discussion? Hear none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. This time, we'll close public hearing. Thank you. All right. We've already made it through item 17. Moving on to item 18, adoption of a resolution declaring May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day. Mr. Scott.
Mr. Coons, you sure you don't want to do that by ordinance?
No, sir. I do not. I do not. This is a expression of this board and not to govern any future boards. Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Coons, Executive Director of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council. As the Chairman just stated, here to ask your consideration tonight for a proclamation to designate May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day in Suwannee County in recognition of the 50th anniversary of the Regional Planning Council. The council was formed in 1969. Before you consider that proclamation, I'd like to take a few minutes and just review with you the responsibilities of the council and review some of the history and activities of the council over the past 5 decades. A little bit about who we are, what we do, that 50-year history, then a summary. We're part of a statewide network of 10 councils across the state. Our mission is to improve the quality of life of citizens throughout the region through enhancing public safety, protecting regional resources, promoting economic development, and providing services to member local governments. The region is now 12 counties and 40 municipalities. 13 of those municipalities, including the city of Live Oak, are voting members of the council. It's one of the larger regions in the state, over 8,000 square miles, and has a population of just over 500,000. About 560,000 persons live in the 12 counties. The council itself is made of 2/3 elected officials and 1/3 gubernatorial appointees. Commissioner Stapleton is your current representative on the council. Under state law, counties are required to be members of their regional planning council, and cities in North Florida can choose to be voluntary members. Those are the 12 counties included in the region, and those are the current 13-member municipalities. Council is governed by an executive committee. Our current chair is Mayor Davis from the city of Waldo. Our vice chair is Commissioner Wilford from the city of Alachua. Our secretary-treasurer is Commissioner Chestnut from Alachua County. Our executive committee member is Commissioner Demps from Taylor County. And our media pass chair is Ms. Thomas, a gubernatorial appointee from Dixie County. We also have a number of ex officio members, state agencies, Department of Economic Opportunity, Environmental Protection, Department of Transportation, and the 3 water management districts that cover the 12 counties that participate in our monthly meetings and provide timely information and updates to the council and items of interest to our member local governments. Council is engaged in a wide variety of activities, ranging from regional activities on maintaining our strategic regional policy plan, similar to your county comprehensive plan, providing review comments to federal funding agencies for federal grant and loan applications that may have a physical impact on the environment, and also reviewing local government comprehensive plan amendments and providing advisory comments to the city or county. Under public safety, we work with the North Central Florida Local Emergency Planning Committee and provide training for first responders, fire rescue, emergency management, law enforcement, and emergency medical services in the area of safety for hazardous materials. In the area of transportation, we serve as the designated planning agency for the state-funded Transportation Disadvantage Program. Our responsibilities include preparing the annual service plan, recommending the service provider, and staffing the coordinating board in each county that meets on a quarterly basis. And Commissioner Hale is your current representative on that coordinating board. We also work with the City of Gainesville and Alachua County on their metropolitan transportation planning in the Gainesville area. Under economic development, we're a U.S. Department of Commerce designated economic development district, which means we're responsible for long-range strategic economic planning for the region to diversify our economy. We also provide econometric modeling to member cities and counties, as well as economic development organizations, and also provide grant assistance for procuring federal and state public infrastructure dollars for job-creating projects for business to locate or expand in your community. Lastly is our local government assistance program. We work with 6 rural counties and 13 municipalities in providing ongoing planning services and extension of their staff to assist them in complying with the State Community Planning Act, and also worked in the Community Development Block Grant Program in filing applications of interesting projects. And over the past 40-some years, the council has secured over 100 projects for $50 million for communities throughout North Florida. So as I mentioned, this is our 50th anniversary. The council was formed on May 7, 1969, when 5 local governments, Alachua County, City of Alachua, City of Gainesville, City of Hawthorne, and City of High Springs, their elected officials came together and recognized the value of working together with their neighbors. Then several years later, a union of Bradford County joined. In 1975, 4 additional counties and 3 cities, including Suwannee County on June 1st of 1975, as well as the other cities in the area. The city of Live Oak joined the following year on September 17, 1976. And our most recent addition is Levy County from August of 2016, when the state legislature a couple years ago reorganized the boundaries and assigned Levy County to the North Central Florida region. So what was life like back in 1969? The Florida population was 6 million persons. Today we have over 21 million residents in the state. We're the 3rd largest state in the nation behind California and Texas. So the state has grown by 3-fold in the past 50 years. The regional population was 225,000, just under 250,000, and the county population was just at 15,000. The president at the time was Richard Nixon, and our state governor was Claude Kirk, Jr. Some significant events that occurred in 1969 is the year construction began at Walt Disney World. Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, and the jumbo jet, the Boeing 747, took its first flight. What was going on in the economy? A gallon of gasoline cost 32 cents. Not $3.32, but 32 cents. A loaf of bread was 23 cents, a gallon of milk, $1.10. A brand new automobile would cost you $2,000. Get yourself a new car for $2,000. The average income was $6,500, and a new house, the average cost at the time was $40,000. What was going on in the world of entertainment and sports? In the movies, the Oscar, the best picture of the year was Midnight Cowboy. And the Grammys, the best song of the year was Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In by The Fifth Dimension. In the world of sports, it was the year of the underdog and the upset. In the World Series, the New York Mets defeated the Baltimore Orioles in 5 games. The Orioles were heavily favored. The Mets were referred to as the Miracle Mets, the young upstart kids. Also in Super Bowl III, the champion was the New York Jets, who also defeated the Baltimore Colts by a score of 17-6. So let's review some of the activities of the council. In our first decade, in the 1970s, some of our first projects focused in the Gainesville urban area on transportation planning and a stormwater study. We also provided services to rural county and assisting them in preparing their first comprehensive plan. We also filed a first community development block grant application for one of our counties. We also received that designation from the U.S. Department of Commerce as an economic development district. The council adopted the first regional comprehensive plan and began providing services to the Metropolitan Planning Organization in the Gainesville area. In the second decade, the 1980s, the council adopted the first overall economic development program. That was a document related to the federal designation to diversify the region's economy. Completed a study on research and development park feasibility, which resulted in the development of the Progress Park Research Center in the city of Alachua. Also in the early 80s, the state of Florida was considering designating the floodplain of the Suwannee River as an area of critical state concern. This would have resulted in your local ordinances being subject to state review and approval as it related to the floodplain of the Suwannee River. So in response to that, the council appointed a Suwannee River Committee made up of county commissioners from the counties along the river, developed a series of recommendations establishing a construction setback for the river, as well as protection of vegetation. Each of the counties, included Suwannee County, adopted that local ordinance, and as a result of that, the state did not designate the floodplain of the river as an area of critical state concern to provide that oversight. Council completed its first regional inland hurricane shelter study during that decade, also some coastal hazard mitigation work in Dixie and Taylor counties. Also working with City of Gainesville and the Southeast Gainesville revitalization study for retail services. Also in the early 80s, the state legislature adopted new legislation that was requiring every county to have a lined landfill, sanitary landfill. Prior to that, county dumps, landfills were unlined, and there was considerable leachate to the groundwater. This would have resulted in considerable expense to particularly small rural counties. So the council formed a task force and undertook a regional solid waste management master plan, which would resulted in the construction of several multi-county landfills, enjoying economies of scale and reducing the cost for participating counties. There's one in Union County that serves 5 counties, and one over in Jefferson County that serves 4 of our western counties. Also, in the 80s, the council initiated the County Hazardous Waste Monitoring Program, another new state law that requires all counties to go out and monitor 20% of the businesses that generate hazardous waste from their activities, such as gasoline service stations, public works yards, and the council provides that service on a cost basis each year to a number of counties in the region, including Suwannee County. In the 1990s, council became involved in the workforce program. Currently it's known as Career Source. Back then it was the Job Training Partnership Act. The council was designated as the administrator and worked with the Private Industry Council for a number of years in providing job training services to employers. Also began working with that North Central Florida Local Emergency Planning Committee and first responders throughout the region, providing training for them. Also, as a result of a study from economic development work, created the original Florida Tourism Task Force to promote North Florida for nature-based, culture-based, and heritage-based tourism. Today, their brand is Visit Natural North Florida. And Sharissa, with your Tourist Development Council, is your representative on that task force, and the council continues to provide staff services to them. Also, at that time, the state established that Transportation Disadvantaged Program, and the council established its local government comprehensive planning annual planning services as a result of the 1985 Growth Management Act. Will provide those services I mentioned earlier to a number of counties and cities. Also completed the first comprehensive economic development strategy, which was the successor to that overall economic development program in the previous decade. Also in that decade, the citizens of the state of Florida added to the state constitution a prohibition on using fishing nets to fish in the Gulf, which had a significant economic impact on Dixie and Taylor County and also Levy County, which was not part of a region at that time. So in response to that, the council formed the Big Bend Tri-County Task Force made up of local officials from Dixie, Taylor, and Levy County, local fishermen, and it worked with them for several years, and as a result of that, developed a very successful and robust clam farming industry in those coastal counties. Also completed county local mitigation strategies for a number of counties in the 1990s. In the fourth decade of the 2000s, the council formed the North Central Florida Regional Hazardous Materials Response Team. This is made up of most of the counties and cities in the eastern part of our region, including Suwannee County. The counties working together on mutual aid to respond to hazardous material incidents. There was a report issued in the early 2000s by the Council of 100, a nonprofit organization centered in Tampa that would have set up a state water board to provide for making decisions about interbasin transfer of water from North Florida, which is water-rich, to the Tampa Bay region and areas south of there. As a result of that analysis and opposition from the council and other organizations, including counties throughout this part of the state legislature did not take up that recommendation, and that state water board was not established, and the 5 water management districts make those decisions on a regional basis yet today. Began providing an economic impact analysis modeling I mentioned earlier in the early 2000s. Also formed the Interstate 75 Corridor Council, which was a council made up of local officials from cities and counties along I-75 from Georgia all the way to the Turnpike, in partnership with the Withlacoochee Regional Council at the time to enhance landscaping and wayfinding signage along I-75, and there's been significant landscaping improvements over the past decade. On I-75, we now have a major welcome sign coming into Florida at the Georgia border. Also completed an Interstate 75 development report as a result of that project. And lastly, in our 5th decade, most recently, after the storms in 04 and 05, the council undertook a regional economic and disaster resiliency study to identify the impact of those storms on property values and the economy and structures and the amount of time and resources it would take to recover from such a storm. Also, for the first time, completed a statewide coordinated evacuation study with the other councils around the state, and then followed it up with a statewide coordinated economic development strategy update using the Florida Chamber Foundation's 6 Pillars principles for guiding economic development. And then most recently, here in Suwannee County, with the construction and opening of the Sable Trace natural gas line and our previously existing Florida natural gas transmission line through our region, council is working with the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Hazardous Material Response Team in providing training to first responders related to safety issues at compressor stations and other locations along those gas pipelines. Then our most recent initiative, started last fall, is the Suwannee River and Withlacoochee River Task Force. This was in response to the continued raw sewage spills by the city of Valdosta into the Withlacoochee River, flows into the Suwannee, and then ultimately ends up in the Gulf. The council formed a task force made up of a county commissioner from each of the 12 counties. Commissioner Hale is your representative on that task force. They've been meeting for the past several months, adopted a resolution recently. I've met with the staff of the city of Valdosta. We now have scheduled a joint workshop between the task force commissioners and the city of Valdosta City Council next Wednesday on April the 10th to relay to them our concerns about both the public health impacts from these spills, the environmental impact, and the economic development impact and adverse publicity it has on our tourism promotion programs in North Florida. They've been addressing the problem. They've spent over $100 million in the last 5 years. They built a new plant, moved it out of the floodplain. But even after that, there's still been 4 spills this past year. They have major infiltration from their collection system. They have a 10-year capital improvement program, another $60 million to try to rectify that infiltration. But the commissioner serving the task force concern is 10 years is too long. We want to work with them on a cooperative basis and help them try to accelerate those improvements to rectify this problem. Oops. So over the past 50 years, the council has had 3 executive directors, 39 chairs, and 396 elected officials, county commissioners, city commissioners, and gubernatorial appointees have served on the board of the Regional Planning Council. We were able to accomplish all this with a very dedicated staff on a daily basis. This is the senior management team, and these are the really important folks. These are the administrative support staff, which we can't work without, and the project managers that make these projects happen on a daily basis. So in summary, Mr. Chairman, council is very excited and proud and honored to be recognizing our 50th anniversary this year. We're part of a network of 10 councils around the state, 2/3 elected officials, 1/3 gubernatorial appointees. We are a planning and coordinating, facilitating, convening body. We're not a regulatory agency. We do not issue any permits. We cannot make anyone do anything, nor can we prohibit anybody from doing anything. I always like to say we have the power and persuasion of good ideas. And our programs are very varied, ranging from regional, public safety, transportation, to economic development, and local government assistance. Concludes my presentation overview of the responsibilities and history of the council. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have before you consider the proclamation.
Oh, thanks, sir. Do y'all have any questions for Mr. Kuhn?
I don't.
I think you pretty much covered it. I have a motion to adopt the resolution declaring May 7th, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day.
Make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Stapleton, seconded by Commissioner Hill. Any further discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman, should it be read?
Yeah, you mind reading it for us?
I'd be delighted to, Mr. Chairman. It's a proclamation declaring May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day. Whereas the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council was formed as the fourth regional planning council in the state of Florida on May 7, 1969, and whereas the mission of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council is to improve the quality of life of the region's citizens by enhancing public safety, protecting regional resources, promoting economic development, and providing technical services to local governments. And whereas the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council, in partnership with economic development organizations and local governments, promotes regional strategies, partnerships, and solutions to strengthen the economic competitiveness and quality of life of the 12 counties and 40 incorporated municipalities in the North Central Florida region. And whereas local governments throughout North Central Florida region recognize the need for regional coordination to address community issues that extend beyond county and municipal boundaries. And whereas the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council is engaged in strategic regional planning, comprehensive economic development strategy planning, and emergency preparedness planning for the future of the North Central Florida region. And whereas for the past 50 years, the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council has brought together local governments and gubernatorial appointees to provide a venue for analyzing issues, resolving problems, and sharing solutions among 52 jurisdictions in Alachua, Bradford, Columbia, Dixie, Gilchrist, Hamilton, Lafayette, Levy, Madison, Suwannee, Taylor, and Union counties. And whereas Suwannee County became a member local government of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council on June 1st, 1975, now therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Suwannee County, Florida proclaims May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day throughout Suwannee County in recognition of the 50th anniversary of the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council and its contributions in advancing the regional agenda. Duly adopted and proclaimed this second day of April, 2019.
Thank you. All right, got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, thank you,
Chairman,
sir.
Board, for helping us celebrate our 50th anniversary, and thank you for your time.
Congratulations for lasting 50 years.
Thank you. We're looking forward to the next 50.
We'll move on to our next item, staff reports. Miss Betty Lawrence.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, community, I'll be brief tonight, but if you have questions for me, I'll try and answer those too. Just want to make a few announcements. I want to let you know that we have received the executed state agreement 2018-19 between the county and the state for public library services and state aid grant aid. And I've also turned that over to the clerk's office for filing, which is what we normally do. Want to also let you know that we've completed the state aid application for the expansion of the Branford Library. Thank you for signing off on the resolution in agreement with that application. Just let you know that the amount that we applied for was $500,000, which is at this point the max. And I did apply for the exempt match for the grant, which, because we're Red Eye County, we qualify for that. I'd also like to thank you for the paint job that has happened at the Live Oak Library. And I want to thank Mark Durham for coordinating that effort. It was very important to me that when vendors come on site, that they come on with a customer service attitude. And I was really pleased with this particular vendor. The public was not inconvenienced in any way, and I didn't get any complaints about anything, which sometimes that's unusual when you have work that's on site and, it's a major job. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the maintenance and county administration for making that happen. So thank you for that. I also want to let you know that this time I didn't bring a big exhibit board. This time I bought you a flyer. And I'll tell you why. I'll bring those in the future again, but I think that it's very important that you have information that lead you to the library. This pamphlet will list all of our 9 libraries, their phone numbers, and website addresses, so that if you need anything, you can just pick up the phone, go on the website, or take a look at our sign when you're passing the library, and we advertise all of our programs. But because our offerings are getting to be, well, they're increasing, and we like that. It's sometimes kind of difficult to make sure that I bring everything in here to display so that you can take a look at it. So please do contact us, either by phone, texting, Facebook, whatever, and we'll make sure that we get you the information that you need in terms of what we're doing over there. It's time for me to start to remind you that summer reading is coming up. That happens in June and July, so I encourage everyone to help us get the word out that anyone can participate in that program, but it's very important that our children participate in that program. So my thought is that everybody's raising kids, whether you want to or not. So whether you have any or not, see that some child get the word, or their parents, about summer reading at the library. We'd be glad to have them there. And they can go to any library in the system. And our system consists of 9 libraries. That's 3 in Suwannee County, Branford, Darling Park, Live Oak, 3 in Hamilton County, which is Jasper, Jennings, and White Springs, and 3 in Madison County, which is Madison, Lee, and Greenville. So there are plenty of opportunities, and we do have people that travel to various places, depending on what their interest is. Want to mention a special program that's coming up. All of our programs are special, but we will be honored to have Francis Gary Powers Jr. Many of you may remember him, but he will be coming to the library on April 15th. I think that's Monday, April 15th, at 6 o'clock, and he will be giving a review discussing his new book, which is this one, Spy Pilot. This was published in 2018, and this is his newest book. So we will also have a book signing at that time. So please spread the word and come out. We're glad to have you. We don't use county funds for refreshments, but we got some good friends and good contributors, and we do have refreshments. So we'll be glad to have you. You have any questions for me?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. And as you mentioned about that message board, your message board, you sign out there. I haven't been paying attention to it, but now it just catch my attention. Every time I go by there with the flashing, I think it's eye-catching.
Thank you. I'll let my staff know. I have a couple of people that keeps it going, and it's I get a lot of comments on it from the public. So I think it's not a distraction, but it gives information and it's easy. So that was what we were aiming for. I do have one more announcement that'll be coming in the future, but we're going into planting season, and we received some funds from the state for what they call innovative ideas. And so they asked us if we had any innovative ideas that we wanted to try at our library. And so I submitted the idea of having information and display and demonstration on robotic farming, and so we'll be setting that up in the near future. I'll give you more information on that as we go along. It'll be a small plot. We plan to do it with herbs, but we will be doing it also with a robotic assistance. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, while we're still right here in staff reports, Mr. Baker, our clerk, has something he wants to speak on, so we'll give him a couple minutes.
If it's all right, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to take, this is Ken's last meeting, is where Ken has served as our finance director for the last 6 years. And, sorry? 5 years, okay. And that's where that he's retiring. He's moving to the beach and going to enjoy life and pick up his heels. And so I just wanted to tell Ken I appreciate his service. I appreciate y'all working with Ken and our staff on the budgets and stuff these past few years. So if it's all right, I just wanted to thank him for his service.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Ken, if it's your last meeting, if I don't see you before you're gone, it was good working with you, and congratulations on your retirement. Thanks, sir.
Enjoy the beach.
I didn't ask you to threaten us. All right, moving on to general business. Discuss with possible board action, authorization to purchase used equipment, which was included in the budget from sole source vendors when equipment can be located. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have quite a dilemma. You know, for years, we've tried to purchase as many used pieces of equipment for the road department. Some examples of that would be these inmate vans, passenger vans, used pickup trucks. And we budget for them, but we have incredible difficulty making the purchases. Oftentimes, we find some of these pieces of equipment, and our process is we have to come in here, get authorization, we identify the vendor as a sole source vendor, and then go out and try to procure the piece of equipment. But the problem with it is we can't get these various businesses to hold the vehicle for us to go through our process. It's just taking too long. So what I'm asking is the board go ahead and authorize us to make the purchases, declare them sole source, put it on the consent agenda afterward to ratify those purchases so that we can go ahead and make those. I've talked to the county attorney about it, and this is about the only process we can come up with to get through this in a timely manner where these people will go ahead and sell us a used piece of equipment when we can find something that works for us.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, second by Commissioner Stapleton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Item 22, discuss possible board action, any issues associated with the water or wastewater plant at I-75, County Road 136. Got anything for us?
Did you say item 22?
21, I'm sorry.
One.
Okay. No, sir, I don't have anything for you on item number 21.
Item 22 is additional agenda item. Got one additional agenda item. Let's discuss with possible board action, quote from Government Services Group regarding cost for evaluation of proposed MSBU road improvements projects on 161st and 65th Road. Mr. Harris.
I'm going to try to give you the summary version of this. Summary version is that when we met with Neighbors Giblin, our legal counsel on MSBU's, they identified two projects that would require a percentage of benefit analysis for properties in that immediate area that would use those roads if they were improved. We have a continuing contract with GSG, and we request a quote. They sent us back a quote of $12,000 to evaluate these two projects. One of the projects is much larger than the other. My request is that the board consider postponing any consideration of the two projects in the current year because we are in a severe time crunch. You know, we've been compiling the information and the data and meeting with legal counsel on these issues, but I hate for us to be in a time crunch on this, particularly when there's a $12,000 question in mind. I have to believe that if we take the estimates, there's a small amount of additional information that we need to put together with Public Financial Management, PFM, who we now have an agreement with. I think once we get that on the financial expenses and add it to the estimates that we already have, we can then go out and try to communicate those estimates and the potential impacts to the property owners and gauge their sentiments on continuing the process. Because in the alternative, if we were to approve this expense now, we don't have a budget for that other than take it from the professional services line under the Board of County Commissioners. Typically, all expenses would be borne by the project, but you can't get the information out there fast enough without going out and either petitioning these property owners or communicating this in another form. I know Commissioner Hale plans to go knock on doors and communicate these estimates now to the property owners in all of the commissioners' districts, just because he likes to do that kind of thing. That's a joke. In any event, I would ask that on these particular projects that we just postpone consideration, continue trying to finalize the information on the estimates, and then turn that over in Commissioner Hale's case to him. Let him try to communicate that to the people that had petitioned him actually to get that particular project involved in the process. And then 65th we'll handle similarly.
So you recommend no action on this?
I'm recommending that we postpone because previously in the last meeting we decided that we would go ahead and move forward with those two projects in addition to the others. I'm asking that we postpone doing that right now. We can go ahead, our staff can finish obtaining the balance of the information, but then that'll give us more time to disseminate that information and be prepared next year if those property owners decide that they want to continue with the process. I think when they see the estimates, some of them are going to change their mind.
No doubt. I'm fine with that. Are y'all?
I'm good with it, especially because of how more detailed this thing has gotten and more information they need, and other people that access that road is going to be involved in this. I just don't think it could get done even if we wanted to on a timeline, to be honest with you. But
It'd be pretty tough.
Yeah.
It's a pretty stringent timeline.
Mr. Chairman, my issue simply was that I don't want to incur a bill for something that that we probably will
we
not.
don't know. That's right.
Will not happen anyway.
Right.
So,
Okay. Everybody's good with postponing.
Okay.
Was that the only additional agenda item you had? That's all I seen.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on to item 23, public comment and concerns. If you would like to speak, if you'll make your way to the podium, give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Robert Ford. I live at 8896 135th Loop, Live Oak. I want to speak about Heritage Park and Gardens. We scheduled for our 7th annual appreciation luncheon and fundraiser. It is scheduled for April the 9th, next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Many of you have received an invitation to come. If you did not receive an invitation to come, consider this an invitation. The only thing you have to do is just RSVP. You can let myself, Jenny Hancock, Jenny Hancock know, and come out. And you can see what we're doing at Heritage Park and Garden. It's a beautiful facility within this county, and it is basically managed by the Friends of Heritage Park, and it requires a lot of funding, donations to make that facility operate. If you are interested in seeing all the things that we do, come out. We'll have a beautiful luncheon, and I hope you sign a pledge form while you're there to give us some funds to help us operate. Hope to see you there next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. But let us know before you come, before we could have everything prepared for you.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Gamble, how you doing?
Doing good.
My name is Andy Jordan. I live on 249 Nobles Ferry Road. I remember the first time that Mr. Hale came to my door to solicit our vote, and when he saw me, he figured that I was certainly going to vote for him because we went to the same barber.
Absolutely.
So it's good to see you again, Mr.
You too, my friend.
I serve as the Associational Mission Catalyst for the Suwannee Baptist Association. There are 41 churches in Hamilton and Suwannee County that we are a network of, and we have recently embarked on a partnership with the Chipola Baptist Association in Jackson County to assist them with their disaster relief and recovery efforts following Hurricane Michael. I have some information I wanted to pass out and ask you to share. And I read in the information that I have just a minute or 3 minutes to talk. I see that clock hasn't started yet, but I feel like I was at my last Fifth Sunday sing, and they told me you can get up, but you can't preach. So I'll be as brief as I can. Long story short, the Suwannee Baptist Association is involved in quite a few community ministries and outreaches, serving our community, everything from global missions to serving schools. We're pursuing these with great diligence, and in the process of the last couple of months, as I mentioned earlier, we discovered an ongoing need that will exist in the Jackson County area for years to come. So what I've put before you is just basically for information and opportunity to assist us as we try to assist them. We are recruiting teams of volunteers, both skilled and non-skilled labor, to assist in that area, our neighbors, and work through the various government agencies that the Chipola Baptist Association is working with, including the local Emergency Relief Association organizations and FEMA and the other organizations involved there. One of the needs that we've discovered that are greatest right now is that while the FEMA is beginning to wrap up their cleanup process, there's still quite a bit of work to begin to help those folks that are staying in Jackson County. The hurricane permanently ended 30% of their business organizations and no longer exist. A number of families have moved away because they can't afford to because of lack of insurance to make repairs to their houses. And so we see this as an opportunity to assist folks that one day might come our way to assist us if the hurricane comes a little bit farther east the next time. So basically, with the few seconds I have left, I just want to share this information with you that we are interested in possibly the county helping us with some resources such as equipment that might be used to help with tree removal and cleanup in that area. And also if there's a possibility that the county could help us to share information about the needs for skilled workers that could volunteer some time to partner with some other teams as they serve here in the coming months. So we have a couple of groups actually in June and July that will be coming from Colorado and Tennessee and partnering with our groups, and we expect to do this through the next several years. Do y'all have any questions for me? Because I know I don't have many answers, but like a pastor friend of mine told me once, he never let the lack of information keep him from giving an answer. Do the best I can.
Sound like a politician.
Well, I got the look.
He's got the look, that's right.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, having been a pastor in the Chipola Baptist Association and a pastor in the Suwannee Baptist Association, I know the work that you do, and I very much appreciate all that the Suwannee Baptist does to get out and help, especially folks in Florida, our Floridians, but I know you go out, you reach out and go well beyond the borders. And I'll commit to you, anything I can do, I'll definitely be a part of that solution, and I'll do my best to get it out to our churches down in the South End.
Thank you.
And lucky for us, we have the greatest reporter in the house tonight.
Yes, we do.
And maybe he can help us spread this word as well.
Oh, he can.
Take a picture of him. That's like a front page story.
That's right. Absolutely. So I agree with Mr. Richardson. We'll do whatever we can to support you in your efforts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Greetings, I'm Wendy Martin of 15850 141st Road in McAlpin, and I want to address the marijuana moratorium and when you guys are going to lift it, because as I see it now, all we are doing is losing revenue. People that have medical marijuana in Suwannee County are going into Columbia County to buy their marijuana, and while they're there, they're shopping at the Walmart there because it's got a better selection, so we're losing sales revenues. They're hitting the restaurants there. That's more hospitality revenue we could have coming in. They're hitting the gas stations there, so we're losing road tax revenue. And I want to know, with all this borrowing that we've had between fixing the sinkholes at the Catalyst site where we borrowed money from Columbia County and this tri-county agreement that we have with the water plant for the north end of the county and the tri-county or Hamilton, Columbia, and Suwannee, if there's any covenants to not compete in the marijuana industry. Because until you guys lift the moratorium, there can be no public hearings on any rule-making process. People cannot apply for permits because zoning isn't going to know what the rules are. So they're not going to issue any permits. And in the meantime, and those are jobs that would be created in this county by having medical marijuana in the area, as well as money not leaving the county because while they're busy in Columbia County or whatever surrounding county buying their medical marijuana, they're also doing their shopping, their gas. So we're losing money on it, and I'd like to know when you're going to lift it.
When did it expire, Jimmy?
But that has not been in the paper about you doing it. I check.
Well,
And I want it out.
We had an initial 6-month moratorium, and then, as I recall, February of last year, we added an additional 90 days at that time. After the 90 days, it automatically expired. So it's been expired approximately.
So when are you going
11
to start a
months.
rulemaking process so we can get rules and get the business going here?
Well, the rules will be conducted, and what we said, I speak for the
Go ahead.
commissioners as directed. We were waiting for the state to come out with their rules.
So
that
after
we can
July?
Process.
Or, I know the new
Well, it
laws.
was supposed to be last July, and it didn't get done, last
Well,
July.
the current governor we have is, and legislature have been doing that, coming up with, for the medical marijuana.
Well, we let the moratorium go, and so the moratorium has expired itself, but we haven't put any additional local rules other than what are currently would be enforceable under the LDRs, because we haven't gotten any directive or direction from the state.
Other counties haven't gotten it, and they've got regulation going on.
Well, that's their prerogative, and we've decided as our county to wait until we had direction from the state.
And when will that be forthcoming, at the end of April when this session is over, or do you have to wait until July when all the new rules take effect?
If they pass it, it would be when the new rules take effect.
Because according to local the Channel 6 and 27, both the state legislature and the governor have been working on this and signed legislation about the medical marijuana, and I want to know when we're going to catch up.
Waiting on them.
Wait on that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Yes, sir.
My name is Kelsey Driver. I live at 7161 284th Street in Branford, Florida. And my comment is basically about my father's property, which I believe Mr. Richardson had spoke about earlier. And I guess he misunderstood me. I would like to pay the back taxes and clean up the property to make it back the way that my father had it before he passed, or before the person that he had married, moved in. I just want the opportunity to actually that's the only thing my father had left me that I have. I just want the opportunity to be able to take ownership of that property without the county saying, no, I can't. That's all I got.
All right, well, at this point, I think it didn't sell on the courthouse steps, and at the last meeting, I think the county had already voted to purchase it.
I understand that, but y'all also have the power to say, well, let's let Mr. Driver clean it. I know there's a fine levied on that place, which if somebody, I wasn't going to clean it up because my Cassandra Driver or McGee or whatever her name is, I mean, there's probably several of y'all that understand that situation except for, I don't know. I just want the opportunity to take control of that.
I understand now that the county owns it, though, and the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not as simple as just giving it over. The county has to surplus it, and then there's a process that would have to go back to the auction block. We can't just single you out now.
I own like 75% of it, but I just could not make that person leave.
Would that be correct, Jimmy?
Yes, sir, that'd be the surplus.
You'd have to surplus it out, and then it would have to go back on the auction block, basically. We'd have to auction it off. We can't, once the county owns a piece of property, unless it's a nonprofit or another governmental agency, we can't just outright sell it to one individual. Once it's county property, then it has to be surplused, and all the individuals have to have opportunity to buy it, just like they did when it was on the courthouse steps.
All right, I'd missed that opportunity, I guess, because I'm tired of dealing with it, basically.
I mean, I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but I mean, I think that's the overall goal, is to clean it up, surplus it, and put it back on.
I would clean it up, I mean, but I don't want to clean it up with her name on it, basically.
I got you.
But her being able to come back and have a part of it. That's all I got for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris, moving on to administrator comments, you have anything? Well, was there anyone else wishing to speak? I'm sorry. Seeing none. Mr. Harris, have anything?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm gonna waive the balance of my time this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right.
First for everything.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? He'll make it up on the other end. Board members' requests, comments. Mr. Richardson, you have anything?
On April the 13th, at 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., we have the annual Catfish Festival down in Suwannee River Catfish Festival on the Greenway in downtown Branford. Invite everyone to come out, be a part of that. It's usually a big event. They have great music, and it'll be a great venue this year. I hope and pray that you'll come out and just give them a chance to see what it's about. Fill it up.
Mr. Fleming?
No, sir, I don't have anything.
Mr. Hale?
Just like to remind everybody, this Saturday, the 6th at John's Lawn is the annual lawnmower race, fundraiser for ARC. And I think the Boy Scouts will be there serving lunch, $5 or $6 lunches, something like that. And this year, the elected officials couldn't beat the cheating team, so we recruited the cheating team this year.
Who won last year?
Well, we're not talking about that. We're just saying that.
I was there. You did cheat.
So come out and join us, please. It's a great cause.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Stapleton?
I got like 17 things. I'll try to make it brief.
Go right ahead.
I just want to thank Mr. Ford and Ms. Hancock for Heritage Park, all your efforts there. It's a lot of work, and we appreciate that. I've seen what's taken place there over the years. Also, Mr. Scott, appreciate you for Wings Over Suwannee. And also, we had a Little League season got kicked off on Saturday. Of those of you that don't know, Commissioner Gamble, he threw out the first pitch. I do need to clarify, though, contrary to what the newspaper's printing, he is not going to be drafted by a major league team.
Listen, I told him I couldn't pitch when I played baseball. What makes you think I can pitch 20 years later?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I scratched off a lot with what I had. Y'all covered. The fair ended, what, a week ago? Hats off to the fair board and everybody that worked on that. That was one of the best fairs we've had. They did a great job. There's also, ARC has two fundraisers going on. They got the golf course, or the golf cart, or not golf, lawnmower race. And then also in May 18th, they have a dinner and a show, I believe is what it is, in Lake City, A Million Dreams. And I have tickets for that if anyone wishes to purchase one or make a donation. Also Saturday, competing with the lawnmower race, is Hooked on Heroes. That's the twice-a-year fishing trip that Ron Cato and a lot of other local guys have put together over the last 5 or 6 years to take veterans fishing. So if you happen to be down in Steinhatchee Saturday, want to stop in, say hey, thank a vet, we'd appreciate you being time, and they would certainly appreciate it. Other than that, I don't have anything.
I actually have good weather for that this year.
I hope said 20%
Time in a long
chance of rain,
time.
so, yeah. Just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.